And we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Real Estate, hosted by yours truly. My name is Ray. I'm a bearded man of real estate. And this is show 302. 302, the second show of the new year. We have a lot of news to talk about today. Some uncomfortable-ish topics. We're talking about housing speculators in California. Yep, they are already popping up. We're also going to go into the broader economy, housing news that's happening around the world. Well, mainly around the U.S. Canada, not much for you either, Olivier. And we're broadcasting on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitch. We're everywhere. Because this show is live so that you could chime in and I can display your comment and then talk about you. Just like Matt LaMarche did. He said, "Hey, Olivier." And I could also just talk about your comment. If you're on Clubhouse, you could join us and then raise your hand to add your voice to the podcast. And that's right, I did say podcast. We're broadcasting live, but this is a podcast that's recorded and put on all of your favorite podcatchers. So whatever you like. If you like the iTunes, Spotify, Amazon. A lot of people don't know that there's Amazon. If you Amazon my name, you'll find the podcast that way too. So that's kind of cool. You got an Amazon profile now. But thanks everyone for joining. Like I said, a big reason why a big reason why I do this show live is to get your feedback live and to talk about it. So I want you guys to add your voice to the show. So don't be shy. The first bit is a little bit of industry tea. We have two main news stories that have to do with some things that we also talked about last week. So let me bring that up here. Share my screen. We are professionals. The Salt Lakers says no. What's up, Salt Lakers? Thanks for joining us over on the YouTube. So the Supreme Court denies the appeal request in the DOJ case that we talked about last week. If you recall, this started in 2018. And there was a clear cooperation policy. And man, I keep forgetting the other name of the policy. There's another policy, a clear cooperation thing. And then the other thing, it's not fair housing. What is it? Clear cooperation. Oh, the participation rule, which is now defunct, requiring listing brokers to offer blanket unilateral offers of compensation to buyer brokers in order to submit a listing to a realtor affiliated multiple listing service. Clear cooperation requires brokers to submit a listing to their realtor-affiliated MLS within 1 business day of marketing a property to the public. So, what's up, guys? I see Ashley over on Instagram. So these were the two main rules that the DOJ had settled with NAR on. And then they decided to reopen the investigation. And NAR was like, no. You can't reopen an investigation of a settlement that we've already had. And so the DOJ said, oh, yes, we can. And so this was the court battle. I believe NAR lost and then appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, nah, we're good. The lower court's decision was fine on this. DOJ can reopen the investigation. So isn't that exciting, everyone? We're about to get investigated again by the DOJ. So fun to see what's going to come of that. Since the last time they investigated us, they said, hey, you should make your commission public. And so we had to publish it on Zillow and all the third-party websites because surely that would lower the amount of compensation real estate agents make. And then it didn't. and then that information was out there for everyone to see. And they were like, yeah, that's worth it, man. I would pay my agent that. And then we got riddled with lawsuits. NAR was sued left and right and settled, instead of $4 billion, settled for like, what was it? 418 million or something like that. Yeah. 418 million. And in that lawsuit, it says things like, no, don't publish. What, are you crazy? You can't publish commission publicly because that would artificially inflate how much real estate agents make if it was published. So keep it a secret. I mean, Matt's laughing. Personally, okay, some good things came out of the settlements, right? You agents out there who were doing all kinds of work for people with no written agreement now have to have a written agreement. That's not a bad thing, right? That's something we were doing for years anyway. Another good thing that came out of this is that in that written agreement, you tell the buyer, here's what you're going to pay. And if the buyer's going to let you take compensation from the seller, it says it in that agreement. And if it's very clear on what you can and can't take, and if the seller decides to make an offer of compensation to you, you have to disclose that. So this is all good. That's all great stuff. I don't have any problems with that. We were operating that way for years already.
I was just going to throw something else in there because I know a lot of attorneys and Department of Justice, members, commissions, committees, councils, all listen to the podcast.
Yeah. Well,
wait till they find out what we're really hiding. Wait till they just find out what we're really hiding.
That's true.
Yeah.
You might as well give Catchmark a shout out. See if he's listening to the show.
So ridiculous, man.
I mean, it's pretty wild. I personally, I kind of like the system how it is. We're requiring agents, if they expect compensation, there's a lot of brokerages that are having these like backdoor deals signed between the brokerage and their agent and the and the buyer agent. And I don't think that. I think that's a shortcut to court. I think that's what's going to happen with that. So we don't do these little, hey, you sign this and we'll sign this and we'll agree to pay you compensation. So we don't have to have our clients weed through that kind of paperwork. No. We include the compensation if our buyer requested is in the offer, and that's what we expect other agents to do with our offers. And we really haven't had any problems with it. There's only been, ironically, 1 or 2 companies locally that have had an issue doing that. And one of the guys was so mad about it. He was like, our broker would never let us do that. I mean, if you conduct business this way, you'll never sell a house. We've sold like 30 houses since he said that. But you'll never sell a house in this market if you continue to operate this way. So, I don't know what you're thinking. Ironically, the house he inquired on, his broker went under contract with us with a client and it sold, and his broker followed our request to put the compensation in the offer. So I'm actually going to call him this week, and I'm excited for the phone call, and just to say, hey, I just wanted you to know, you said your broker would never allow you to do this. It's a company-wide thing. Your broker represented the client who purchased the property. So you might want to double check your rules that you think you live by.
External communication better than internal communication.
Per my last email is how I want it to come across.
That's right.
Exactly what I want him to feel. And I can't wait. I mean, if he swallows his pride and apologizes, I will be impressed. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I'll be impressed.
Yeah. Well, I will say, I mean, just in all of this, I don't know, and maybe this is our job, is to continue to educate consumers. I feel like, ever since this news broke a couple years ago and we started getting more and more consumer questions and inquiries about, hey, what's going on with this law? What does this mean exactly? From people that have already trusted us and that will trust us in the future. But it just begs the question, what else do they think that we're hiding at this point?
Yeah.
Because compensation I can see, but Zillow for a while there was showing compensation. I think some of the other sites were as well. And I had, much like you, we were already doing this for years because it was a Georgia state law for a while. But they knew. Well, if we walk in the house and they go, I know your compensation's covered here. And I'm like, well, I'm glad you're looking out for it as well. But it just begs that question. Like, what else do they think we're hiding in all of this? And I've tried to get inside the mind of the consumer or the perspective of the consumer. What else do they think is going on here? Because I feel like I'm overly communicative when it comes to some of this stuff, whether it's
Yeah.
off market, compensation, like how deals are done. I'm trying to give everyone the whole secret sauce because I feel like there's nothing else really to hide at this point.
Well, I find
What am I missing?
after even presenting like our value propositions, we still, even after the rule change, have a 99% close rate, but we had that beforehand and we were doing the same thing. We were telling people, this is what you'll have to pay us if the seller doesn't pay us. If the seller offers to pay us, we'll tell you what the seller's paying us. We did all that prior to this deal. So it's actually helped us because there's a lot of agents in the marketplace that didn't know how to even state their value proposition. So those buyers are coming to people that do understand the value proposition. So we don't have any issues with it currently. However, this whole, we're going to reopen the investigation scenario makes me wonder what else could be changed. And if that means that they're just going to kind of alter the DOJ settlement to mimic, or the DOJ agreement with NAR to mimic what is already in the existing settlement. Are they going to take additional steps to maybe get rid of clear cooperation? Are they going to investigate NAR for requiring real estate agents to join MLSs, which we talked about last week on the show? Scap is here. What's up, Scap? We're going to get to your article. Scap is in our contributor chat and submitted an article that talked about hidden fees and just the worthlessness of a middleman. And I'll let you present that, Scap, when it's time. But he says, guess I'll listen while waiting for the UPS driver. I hear you have a delivery coming that may actually help you beat Matt LaMarche in the future. Is that the case, Scap?
That is 1,000% the correct assessment of what you're talking about. Yeah. And I am waiting patiently here for this UPS driver that appears to have like a billion stops before my house so that I can get my new irons so that I can go out and beat the living crap out of Matt LaMarche and put this away once and for all.
Well, first of all, God can't.
No.
Golf talk. Welcome to
Not
Golf
to mention,
Talk.
I paid that UPS driver $100 to just drive around the neighborhood, not coming.
That would be the ultimate. I can't find, man. I guess I took it off my soundboard. I was looking for the golf piano music that I had.
Oh, the
back when we
Masters.
did back when we did the golf. Yeah. The golf show, but I don't have it. So I guess the best I can give you, Scap, is a happy birthday. Yay!
Thank you. I appreciate it.
As much as we hate him, he's got a birthday coming up. It's a big one, 50 years. So even though the quote unquote beloved appraiser in the group is getting older, is that going to impede your eyesight when you are appraising properties, Scap? We can talk about it later. All right, let's go to the let's go to the next article. He may be walking around like Joe Biden, not knowing where he is. Like, is it this house or this house? All right. After Supreme Court defeat, NAR's battle with DOJ will continue. On Monday, long battle involving the NAR Association and Justice Department came to a close, or did it? No, it didn't come to a close. It just let them reopen the investigation. This article on Edmund says, what happens next? The legal fight between NAR and DOJ stems from a proposed settlement from the two entities, which we've already talked about. Keep in mind, it was the discovery dispute case where the DOJ had issue request for information, and NAR said, wait a minute, you settled with us and agreed to close your investigation, so those are not proper requests for inquiry. So basically, where you are is back with the court below. So the DOJ can now continue to do what they were going to do. So they are still going to now request the information. Green, let's see, let me keep going here. Let's see, the law is pretty clear on a lot of this stuff. It's relevant and what is appropriate. Let's see, the Trump wild card. So this was a good question that somebody asked in the chat. I want to get to this part. Elizabeth Nightingale said, does the new administration change much of the DOJ agenda? Asking for a friend. Okay. The article says, all of the above said, there is a wild card hanging over the case. the impending presidential inauguration of Donald Trump, but it's unclear what that means for the situation. Earlier in his career, Carson worked with the DOJ's antitrust division. He told Inman that when the new White House administration takes office, the agency's non-political staff and attorneys stay in place, while the new political appointees take charge. In this case, that means the DOJ could continue its investigation, but top leaders in the agency could theoretically and eventually take a different stance, perhaps a less aggressive one, compared to what happened during the administration of President Biden. It's worth noting that they reached their settlement, quote unquote, during Trump's first term in office and withdrew after Biden took office. So during the transition, there's usually an explanation of what current investigations are going on, what new folks are, basically the incoming team gets a brief. Let's see. They say no big surprises. Though the only certainty right now appears to be that the fight between NAR and DOJ will continue. That's the certainty. So it's kind of like a wait and see, I guess. The NAR, I mean, I guess some could say they valiantly fought for 4 years so that now you have a new administration that may be more friendly to them coming in. But man, I put that quote unquote valiance. I mean, they lost again. So losses are just piling up. Olivier said the whole legal stuff with NAR is getting so out of hand. What is the NAR group in Canada, Olivier? I can't remember. You've told me before what they're called. I can't remember.
We have CREA, which is the Canadian Real Estate Association, or provincial boards, which is, I find our structure a heck of a lot more simple than you guys. I mean, I have access to all the listings from my state with just my board membership. I don't have these MLSs I have to go on to. And we have it's the state that regulates how we apply that makes the laws. It's not the country, it's not CREA that does the laws. CREA is basically a lobbyist group for the government, and that's all it does, really.
Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, that's similar to what's supposed to be here, but they also put in, they're not laws, they're practices that we have to follow. Regulations, they make regulatory requests, or maybe not, it's not a request, that's not what I'm looking for. Suggestions is not the right word either.
Yeah, but anyway. Here it's our provincial regulator that does that.
Okay.
Which is a state law or a provincial law that regulates the real estate industry. And they say, well, this is the form you have to use. It's the finance minister of Quebec that does that. So it's a heck of a lot simpler. And in Quebec, we have the civil code. And I think in Canada, it's common law. So we don't even have the same legal basis for how we should run real estate. So it's really different here than what you have in the States.
Interesting. All right, Aaron. What's up, Aaron? Aaron Mini Homes on Instagram says, my understanding was that the DOJ fought NAR because they did not like it was such a large organization. Oh yeah. Was there a monopoly component? That's not handled by the same people, I don't think, but there may have been some kind of monopolistic component to that. Could be right. Hi, Aaron. Yvonne, what's up? She says hi over on Instagram too. Olivier said, but we only have 10 provinces, not 50. I think, you know what would be cool, Olivier, is if you guys kind of set the example for a one MLS, and then America's like, oh, okay, you could do 10.
Yeah, well, you should have one MLS. We have one MLS per province. Yeah, and we have realtor.ca, which has all the listings from every province. So if someone's in, I don't know, Ontario and wants to move to Quebec, they'll go on Realtor, but they could also go on our local MLS if they would want to. But it's basically one per 8, not like you guys have in New York. Not New York City is not the right example, but in Florida, you have how many MLSs? Like 20 for the whole state, which doesn't make any sense. They don't even share their listings together. We all share our listings together.
Yeah, the Canadian Real Estate Association appears to still own Realtor.ca.
Yes, we do.
How about that? Not owned by Move, but it's still kind of the same color. I know. Well, I guess your flag is just red and white, so that's a common color up there.
Yeah, Olivia, does MLS, is that right? Or
Maple
Listing
Syrup Listing Service.
Maple MLS
Maple
LS,
listing,
got
Maple
it.
listing
Okay.
service.
See it.
That's not a bad idea, Olivier, just to market that way.
Sorry, my kid got me a dad joke calendar
I
for the
like
year,
it.
so I've been going through trying to make my own day by day.
If you don't follow Dan Ludwig, you must, because all of his stories have been laced with dad jokes lately. Speaking of Dan, I checked on him because he's in LA and he's okay. So he's not, for the most part, not directly impacted by the whole fire situation. But speaking of the fires, let's talk about that next. I thought this was a weird article from Inman. This is a really strange article, published on January 14th, 2025. Los Angeles wildfires, Redfin's latest local housing market and rental data. What? It's just weird. It's weird to me because it's just kind of such arm's length from everything that's happening. It's just a weird article. Below, we've outlined Los Angeles housing statistics reflecting the period leading up to the devastating wildfires. We'll be updating this page with new data and insights as they become available. Redfin agents are working hard to help local homeowners and sellers navigate disruptions and changes in their transactions. I mean, doesn't that feel like, cold as ice? But here's the data. Median home sales price prior to everything burning up was $905,250. That was up 6.5% year over year. Median monthly payment, $5,970 per month. Whoa, that's high. I remember Hawaii's being in the fours. Affordability, Los Angeles has the least affordable for-sale housing market in the country. Some making the median income would have to spend 78% of their earnings on monthly housing cost to afford the typical home. Active listings. See, like this number, it's just stupid. 16,911. New listings, 2,936. That's actually up 11% year over year. That's the more interesting part. Just tell me the percent changes leading up to all this. Pending home sales, 6.6%. Home sold, 16.3%. These are all up. Median days on market was 51. That's up 9 days. Share of homes sold above list price, 39.9%. It's the ninth highest among major metros. Total value of homes, $2.2 trillion, up 6%. Owner-occupied homes, 1.6 million. But that's as of 2023. Homeowner tenure. The typical Los Angeles homeowner spent 19.4 years in their home. Wow. That's much longer than the nationwide average, 11.8. And then they also do the same thing, dissect the Los Angeles market. Los Angeles rental market. Just for kind of general information to revisit this. I think this is why they're doing this, so they could see, okay, if something happens in the market crazy, we have these numbers published here for perpetuity. Fire risk. Let me read a couple of these. 0 to 1 bedroom median asking rent is $2,483. 2 bedroom, $3,170. 3+ bedroom, $3,899. Those are only up 0.5, 0.5, and 1.7% year over year. So more than half of Los Angeles, 56%, are rent burdened. All right, fire risk and insurance in Los Angeles. There are 565,006 residential properties facing high fire risk, representing over 1/4, 28.7% of properties. Los Angeles County homeowners and insurance had a homeowners insurance non-renewal rate of 1.4% as of 2023. But that doesn't take into account what happened just a couple of months ago. let's see, that's according to a Redfin analysis, 23 insurance companies. But again, that's still in 2023. What is it? I keep seeing reports saying non-renewals went through the roof like 4 months ago because insurance companies were saying the risk is too great. We're out of here. Kind of similar to what they started to do in some parts of Florida. All right. So weird article. Interesting in that here's the data, but just kind of a weird article to be published that looks like a regular housing market update for Los Angeles, and doesn't really mention here's where you can get help if you need it or anything like that. That's kind of what I would expect, right? If you put something out there. Yeah. Not just
I think
Redfin agents are working hard to manage scheduling issues with their closings now that the city is on fire. I mean, there's a different way to say that, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. And I think, I will say over the last week or so, my feeds on every platform have been full of realtors, not just in California and around California, but everywhere. I think a lot of the companies have done a phenomenal job of communicating the opportunities for them to step in and help, to donate, to send stuff. I mean, say what you will about realtors, Scap, but when something happens, we're the first to promote and get the word out. And not that other industries aren't, but I feel like we've done a lot of good things over the last week, and there's still a lot of devastation going on. So I think if I were at Redfin looking at this objectively, I'd be going, why don't we just keep doing what we do? And I mean, I think you're right. I think there's always an opportunity to promote, but I also feel like as a corporation, you're always going to be judged for, well, why did they contribute to that thing and not this thing, and then you're listing off 100 different things. So that's my only, having worked in corporate America and played that politic game for a while. They end up going, you know what? We're not doing anything instead. So.
Yeah. Aaron put this in the Instagram. Well, this is where we're headed. Hey, hold that thought, Aaron. She's on Instagram and she's got two great comments there that I'll get to about the California and price gouging. I agree with you, Matt. I mean, some grace, I guess, is afforded there. It just caught me strange, seeing everything about California and then reading Redfin's like housing market update. I would suggest that if you're a real estate agent in that area, don't take that tact. But you should be more personable because you are an actual person and not a giant corporation.
Right. Well, and I think a lot of corporations just go, we should not do anything this week, basically.
You should not do something, I think, but I don't know. They probably have some other stuff out there. But I'm probably missing all the other stuff. So one of the things I like to do though is when there's something happening in an area, I mean, I'm blessed to be well connected across the US with wonderful agents, and partly due to this podcast. Also, I do a little bit of speaking here and there. I'm lucky to have friends all over the world. And, hey, Howard, by the way, who's over in Israel, and we have Massimo in Italy and several people around the Olivier's in Canada. He's here. Calgary real estate agent just joined us on Instagram. So I'm truly blessed to have all the friendships I do with agents around the country and around the world. And I will send people, the stuff I'm seeing. So one of the things early on was talking about shortage of water. One of the things was talking about not clearing brush. There was all this stuff that was like saying, hey, this is the reason. And I would send it to friends that live in those areas and say, tell me more about this. And there's always a lot of truth to it, but there's also a lot of nuance to it too. And it's fun, even people that don't believe like me, hearing their opinion on it, people that do believe like me, hearing their opinion on it. Some people don't like it because they're like, oh man, I don't like talking bad about California. But for the most part, the realists are like, well, there's good and bad stuff. And here's what we're seeing. And one of the things, like there were these, and there was also an interview that Elon did with firefighters. And it was really interesting because we heard about the Palisades reservoir being empty. And then, Adam Schiff was like, oh no, we had 3 million gallons of water, but the Palisades holds 117 million gallons of water. So there's a lot of talk like, why was that empty? Why did that happen last year or this year? What happened with it? So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of good questions asked and investigations. There was money cut from the fire department. There was supposedly not enough staff. Now there's people from all over the world. There's like a Mexican group of, they do search and rescue specialists in these type of environments. They're there. So there are people kind of coming from all over now. They're pretty well staffed. But one of the things a lot of my friends said in California, kind of across the board, is that yes, it could have all been managed better, but it's also, how did they phrase it? This is a phrase of several responses, but one of them said it's just a part of living here. As tornadoes are part of living in Arkansas, earthquakes, fires, mudslides, California, blizzards, everywhere in Canada, right? Everywhere in Canada has blizzards. I just feel like they're covered in snow all the time. But I mean, there's natural disasters all over the place. And there's really a time and place to kind of figure out what happened. But now just helping the people is probably the best solution. So whenever we talk about it on this show, we'll extend the discussion as far as it affects housing. But if you need help, and you're looking for something, if you're a real estate agent with Real, we have a special number you can call and a place you can request help. But if you're a real estate agent and you need help, there's a lot of resources that I've been sent this week. I can't post them all. Kind of like maybe this is what Redfin did. I can't post them all. There's too many. But there's a lot of available resources for people that are in need that I'm happy to share with you depending on what it is. So don't hesitate to reach out to me on Instagram, Ray Zorback. That's RayZorback. But just like we won't speculate what happened, what caused it, why it happened, how it happened, could it have been avoided, we're going to pretty much keep our conversation around the market. And the reason why I'm saying that is because there's two political articles coming up that we're going to cover, but I want to cover it because it talks about speculation regarding the wildfires and real estate. So this article is on ABC. It says LA mayor issues housing executive order amid wildfire crisis. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass has issued an executive order to rebuild homes and businesses that the city lost in the ongoing LA County fires. That overall have so far burned more than 40,000 acres and destroyed more than 12,000 structures. Now I've seen misreporting on this, the 12,000 structures. They consider structures houses, cars, outbuildings, sheds, any kind of structure is a structure they count. So someone's like, oh, there's already 12,000 homes that, will take years to rebuild. No, that's not true. It's 12,000 total structures, cars, buildings, outbuildings, sheds, whatever. The executive order calls for agencies to expedite temporary occupancy approvals for 1,400 housing units that are near completion, and the establishment of debris removal task force and a watershed hazards task force to respectively develop plans and debris removal and to mitigate risk and dangers of post-fire flash floods, mudslides, and debris flows. The order calls for city agencies to collectively expedite the building permit review process. Now, this was a really big issue that came up as soon as this started happening and taking out several buildings. Actually, Adam Carolla has a humorously angry take about this, talking about how the permits are really what's going to get people as they try to rebuild. But they're supposed to be expediting the permit review process, calling for reviews to be done within 30 days following the submission of an application. Inspections by the Department of Building and Safety to be conducted 2 business days of submitted request. For structures being built, city agencies will be required to process necessary clearances and release related building permit applications and certificates of occupancy within 5 business days of the order. The order notes that the eligible rebuilds under these requirements must be rebuilt at the same location where they previously existed. That's obvious, I would say. Used for the same use and are not to exceed 110% of the floor area, height, and bulk of the previous structure. So this is interesting, and perhaps an interesting way to keep out some speculation. And, I know there's some pretty well-off areas that were hit. But there may have been some areas also that were not as well off, that have small homes on nice lots. And I'm sure investors in those areas were already bulldozing the home and building a big house. We have several areas in Little Rock that they're doing that. So I know they have to be doing that in parts of LA. So this would prevent a speculator from coming in and buying the lot or buying the small home and rebuilding it over 110% of its existing size. But this is for the eligible rebuilds under these requirements. So that could mean it doesn't prevent a rebuild, but if you want the expedited process, if you want to cut the red tape, then you have to follow these rules. That's my understanding of this. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong. So my understanding is if you want the benefit of the expedited government process for your rebuild, you pretty much have to rebuild the same structure, which I think is an interesting take. The unprecedented disaster warrants unprecedented response. It will expedite rebuilding of homes, businesses, and communities. This order is the first step in clearing the way for red tape and bureaucracy to organize around urgency and common sense. I like the move. If you're trying to keep the city the same for the expedited process, it's a good move. But what it also means is if you are an investor or speculator and you do purchase a property, don't expect that expedited process. But I wonder if just the added efficiency is going to expedite your process anyway, which is interesting. It's not 12,000 homes yet. It's 12,000 total structures. I don't know the actual number of homes. Let me see if there's anything else in this article I wanted to hit. I think that's about it as far as the permitting goes on that one.
Well, and if I'm not super savvy on all the ins and outs as far as that area is concerned, and maybe someone in California can help educate us, but excuse me, my understanding was a lot of these properties were built, a lot of the homes were built in the 70s, right? Like construction was very different.
Yeah, true.
So what are we going to do? Like, how do you know? I mean, outside of Google Earth, where you've got a couple exterior images, like, I
guess they're looking at the county records. Oh, that brings up an issue though. There's a lot of times in Arkansas that the county records are way wrong on square footage.
I was going to say, don't go look at my house.
And no one says anything because we don't want the added tax.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, they left off that whole back add-on. That's fine. That's fine.
That's right. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, no, but it is interesting. And again, we aren't just talking about the construction methods. We're talking about materials like plaster versus drywall.
Yeah,
this is gonna be really interesting to see how all of this gets done, especially in California. But
well, now it doesn't say, to your point, it doesn't say that it has to be 110% of the value.
Right.
So it could be, 300% of the value with the same floor area and height, just built super swanky and modern.
Yeah, that was my exact thought. Like if you got an older, 2-story, whatever, or single-story cottage, 2-bedroom, 2-bath type thing, and all of a sudden you've got, smaller bedrooms, and it's a 3-2 as an example. Anyway, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Oh, hi. So the article is implying that they want the same kind of footprint within 100 to 110%. But is there anything in the article discussing fire retardant materials that, in my opinion, should now be mandated by new codes?
No.
Is there anything no?
No, that was a question that Alon asked. I like saying Alon because it drives some people crazy. That was a question that Alon asked the firefighters, and the firefighters said years and years ago, when fires came through, one of the things they noted was that concrete buildings didn't burn. And so there was some code changes that would allow for more of those alternative materials to be built in the area because they were fire resistant. And
I see 3D houses getting built.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. Those 3D print concrete houses we've been talking about. I mean, that would be right for it.
So most of that, I'm actually from California originally, and most of that area definitely had a lot of 60s and 70s construction because they did go through a boom during that era, right through the Palisades and down into some of the more affordable parts. You get over the hill to Malibu, not affordable at all. But anyway, they started pushing out the idea of wood shingles a long time ago because of fire risk. So most of that should have been gone by this point. But you would think that this article would be all about the new codes that these homes should be built to.
So here's the issue with adding additional codes at this time. And this is kind of why some people are like, wait a minute, Gavin was caught on tape kind of being, I mean, from my perspective, he looked downright excited about the chance to have a Marshall Plan to rebuild LA in his own image type of situation. That's how I took what he was saying. Other people were like, no, he's just kind of that kind of guy. But it was kind of weird. Like, man, you're too excited to have like houses on fire behind you and talking about, oh, now we usher in a Marshall Plan. But if there is a change and you're like, okay, obviously this area has high fire risk because these houses burn. So now you can rebuild it, but you have to use flame retardant materials. You have to use fire resistant building materials. Now that puts an additional burden on the people that have to rebuild the properties, and insurance, if they were insured, is going to give them the replacement cost for the home that was built, not money over and above to put in flame retardant stuff, unless there's something they can do at the legislative level that says, hey, insurance companies that allow people to rebuild with flame retardant or fire resistant materials can now get this bonus or can be exempt from this tax thing or whatever they do. Like you have to put some kind of incentive out there to where the insurance company says, okay, hey, let's send someone to these properties and approve these materials so that in the future we have less risk. We can still keep this home insured. And because we're going to keep the home insured and add the flame resistant materials, it's a better deal for us. It's a better deal for the homeowner. It's a better deal for the state.
But it's exactly the same conversation in Florida in terms of hurricane resistance.
Yeah.
Should they rebuild to the same specifications that they had before? And Hurricane Andrew changed the specifications. Like, for example, prior to Hurricane Andrew, your roof did not have to be strapped down to your rafters the way it does now throughout the Southeast. So definitely some code changes made things better for all of us. I don't know what Florida's going to do. I don't know what California's going to do. But to your point about the concrete structure, so I didn't get a chance to join the show last week. I'm so sorry I missed you. But I was in California.
I mean, I can't believe it.
I know. So sad. And I was not in the fire area. I was in Santa Barbara, which is my hometown, and I was standing up on a hill, and we had no wind. We had no smoke where we were, but we could see the smoke 80 miles to the south in the distance. And as I was standing on the hill, perfectly clear day. Yes, I'm rubbing it in. It was 75 and amazing. But I could look down the hill right where I was standing. One of the founders of Google built this massive, gorgeous structure that is concrete. And he's got it. Well, not everybody can do this. He's got his own water tower or water tank for in case he gets a fire because, well, he can. And understandable, I heard, has fire staff he employs to come up and check on the property. None of us live that way. But I do think some changes need to happen so these areas can rebuild and withstand. And I do like the idea of clearing some of the red tape and letting permits get done. But if you're going to rebuild a house, are you going to rebuild it exactly the same way, knowing all your risks are there, whether it's a flood, a hurricane, or a fire?
I mean, if I'm a homeowner in that area, I'm rebuilding and probably selling.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
that's probably what I'm doing. Or I'm taking the insurance money and selling the lot to someone. I mean, why?
True, but most of those people are going to rebuild because they love it.
Yeah, they love it there. And that's what a lot of people are saying. We will rebuild. It's just like every other community that's hit with a natural disaster. Even though it seems worse, it seems crazy to rebuild there, but people are going to do it. There's another article about some stuff that they're doing at the state level. Governor Gavin Newsom of California, members of Los Angeles City Council took steps to prevent property speculation and evictions. One of the concerns are people that own a bunch of property are going to evict their current tenants. And because those current tenants are evicted, they're going to fill it with new tenants who are currently displaced by the wildfires and jack up prices. James Woods talked a little bit about this as his friend was about to sign the lease of a property for $15,000 a month. Yeah, no big deal. That property has now gone up to $30,000 a month. Bidding wars and rent increases are happening, even though the state's emergency that Mr. Newsom declared last week banned any increase above 10% for the duration of the crisis. The first part of Mr. Newsom's two-part executive order bans unsolicited offers for less than what the property's fair market value was before the fires started. That's interesting. And it bans unsolicited offers. So these are the mailers that go out that say, hey, we'll buy your property for 50% of what it was, or for 20%, 30% of what it was. We'll give you the cash for it. This happened a lot when we were hit with the tornado, where you would have investors that would come in and say, hey, guy, you keep the insurance money. We'll buy your property for the value of the lot. And then they wanted to rebuild on that lot a different property to take advantage of the increase in prices overall in the area. And they're trying to prevent that. The ban expires after 3 months, though. So I guess, it says in the article, they're trying to prevent speculators from taking advantage of people that are extremely vulnerable in this time. I understand that, but the fact that it's a ban that expires in 3 months, I don't think you're going to really prevent speculators in California. You're just going to delay. And that's also unsolicited offers. If somebody has a burned out house right now, wants the insurance money, and they stick a real estate sign in the yard, now all offers to that property are solicited. So anything that's currently on the market would be solicited. However, let me share with you what Erin Mimi Holmes says on Instagram. She said, California sent out notices that we as agents need to prevent and report price gouging. Gouging is defined as an increase above 10%. I'm assuming, Aaron, that you're talking about the rental market, or are you referring to, if you're still here, are you referring to the sales market? I don't understand why someone would buy a house right now 10% over what it was. But I guess the price gouging on the opposite end of the spectrum is making offers far below what it currently is. They said rental. Yeah. So I guess they sent, in line with the order from the governor, they sent that out. So that's the first part of Newsom's two-part executive order. The second part calls California's Department of Real Estate to investigate predatory practices against owners and inform the public about them. So what does a predatory practice look like? Aaron said it was let me move this window here. Aaron said it was a pretty general level letter about CA gouging laws. It's a sad reality. People will try to take advantage of this tragedy to jack up rents and evict tenants. Mr. Soto Martinez said before this, housing was already unaffordable for the working class. So here's a question. Is something like this... well, first let me show you guys. I want to show you guys this map. This is a really interesting map. You can find it at livingatlas.arcgis.com/wildfire. Wildfire aware. Sorry, wildfire aware. So it's an interactive map where you can look and see where the fires are. I have the wildfire perimeters and the fire-related weather and watches and warnings. And you can see that the personnel right now, there's 5,104 personnel in the Palisades. Eaton has 3,392, I mean. And then Kenneth has 180. Hearst has 91. It's also got the names of different fires. I don't know, it's cool. It's neat. You can zoom in and take a look at it. So super helpful if you are a real estate agent trying to help people that are in the area, trying to see if you have clients. And I've kind of said this for a long time. Whenever the tornado came through our area, I was really thankful that I had mapped out where my clients are. And I could look on that map and compare it with the tornado map and see like, oh, here are my clients that were hit. And I can immediately jump into action, contact them, help them out, see what I need to do. And that was a really cool thing. So I would encourage you all, use mymaps.google.com, map out your entire database, especially your clients that you've helped buy and sell homes, and check in on them. But this is a really neat way to kind of zoom in and take a look at the fire map. And there's the one in Malibu. The other map I like is the LAtimes.com wildfires dash map. It's more general. It's not as detailed, but it tells you a lot of the information, kind of the same information about the containment, acres burned. It's still no like how many houses burned. I haven't found that information yet. It's just the structures. It'll say structures burned. It's total right now about 12,000. But this is also a good map to take a look, and you can see where the evacuation warnings are and where the fires are. Did I see that Hearst is Hearst is 97% contained now, so that's good news.
Ray,
right.
One other thing kind of along those lines, and I hate to assume that a lot of other states, MLSs, associations, whatever, have done this, but here in Georgia, we had some snow. I think it was like a blizzard of 2 or 3 inches roughly. And we made a change in our 2025 contracts for the Georgia Association of Realtors for the purchase and sale and any other agreements that go along with it, that anytime the governor puts a state of emergency in place, that all contingencies, all provisions, all deadlines, anything and everything attached to that would all be delayed. So we had some really unhappy buyers that thought due diligence ended on Friday when it was extended to Tuesday. I think yesterday actually, for a couple parts of the state. But anyway, just leave it down in the comments. We need some engagement here. YouTube, Instagram, wherever you are.
Olivier said a blizzard of 2 inches.
Yeah. Shut the city down. I didn't want to leave the house. So, well, I don't really ever want to leave the house, but nevertheless, so I don't know if a lot of people have done that yet, if they've put that in their contracts, because, whether, like you said, having a plan, being prepared is one thing, but knowing your contract, for the love of God. Yeah. So when your buyer's agent co-op calls you and goes, all right, so we're done with due diligence, we're like, well, not exactly. But to their benefit in some cases. But yeah, if you're a buyer's agent and you didn't know that and you're like, oh, due diligence just ended and you just had 4 days added, just know your contracts, know how to help your clients, please, for the love of God.
That's a really good idea. I should make a forms change request because we have had more, when it's frozen. I also did during the holidays, we had several contracts under contract, and it was kind of confusing. Like, is Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve? Is that an official holiday? Is it not an official holiday? We have 10 business days to do inspection. So what in the world? And so I actually just did a general addendum. I was like, okay, everyone agrees that this is the day, right? And so we were like, yeah.
Right.
So we're like, well, that seems a little long. I was like, well, do the math. Look at it. And they're like, oh, I guess it is. Scap's got some good
I
comments.
mean, as much as I would love to take full credit for that, that was our general counsel.
It's a good idea.
Association of Realtors. But yeah, Matt LaMarche did come up with that.
It's all Matt LaMarche's fault.
Hear about it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Scap says it's all going to depend on zoning codes and if they've changed or not. And he said, were many of these homes grandfathered in and now they can't rebuild the same way? Yeah, so that's a big question I have. The homes that are given the replacement cost, is it the replacement cost of rebuilding a home? I assume it's rebuilding the home to the current code. But there's a lot of questions about insurance, how many of the homes continue to have insurance, because there was a higher non-insure rate than normal due to the insurance agency's opinion about what was going on with the fire preparedness of California.
Right. It's probably going to, I mean, anybody gets the insurance on their property and everything. I mean, it's the replacement cost is what it was at that time, what they had, what they did, whatever their insurance was. So depending on the zoning codes, and I run into this as an appraiser all the time when you're dealing with different zoning changes. So depending on what the zoning was at the time, like what it is now, depending on, maybe they changed it 10 years ago to something else. And you have some of these smaller homes that maybe they're not allowed to, maybe they were grandfathered in, but now if it's to be destroyed by fire, okay, maybe they can't rebuild that house the same way. Or if they had ADUs or something like that, maybe they're not capable of building it that way anymore. And they have to go by the new zoning code, which will allow for, maybe something bigger or something. We don't know until they actually come out with what the actual zoning or what they're going to allow these people to do. I mean, it could be a positive, it could be a negative. I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe lot sizes have changed. Maybe nobody knows until the city actually comes out and says, hey, this is what the zoning is. This is what you can and cannot do. So some of these people who maybe had their homes insured for what they were, maybe they get that money, but maybe it's not enough to rebuild the way that the zoning is stating they have to rebuild now.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about too. This is an article on Broke Agent Media. Losing your insurance should be the last thing on someone's mind after surviving a devastating fire. Key details from California's insurance authority. Realtor.com reports California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara has imposed a mandatory moratorium on policy cancellations in areas most affected by wildfires. I mean, 5 months late? The aim of this ban, effective until January 7th, 2026, is to ensure homeowners in these areas will not face insurance non-renewals as they recover. The scope of the ban applies to all homeowners within the wildfire perimeters. Background: this move follows a recent rule requiring private insurance to write policies in high-risk areas if they wish to continue operating in California. And this is why many have pulled out, to be honest. Wildfires have caused destruction over 36,000 acres, more than 12,000 structures, estimated economic loss $135 billion and $150 billion. So California has the FAIR plan, which is the state's insurer of last resort, faces significant challenges. While it assures its ability to pay claims, concerns about its $700 million cash reserves persist. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at $150 billion, you have $70 million. That's tough.
They're already afraid that the unfair plan is going to go bankrupt.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. I mean, they'll just have to tax people more, I guess. That's how it's filled up.
No, they don't have a problem.
Good idea.
California doesn't have a problem with either one of those.
Yeah, I mean, that is what they do. That's how they fill it up. The money has to come from somewhere, and it comes from the citizens.
Well, you mentioned bankrupt, and it's just inevitable there.
I mean, it's tough. Reverse mortgage professionals. Oh, okay. No, let me skip that part. State under pressure. Yeah, okay. All that's kind of what we already talked about. Other than the initial thing about the insurance, that was the main point of that article I wanted to hone in on. All right, I'm gonna have to speed up my coverage. I have one more article specifically about the fires. Poorly written headline by Inman. ADUs take center stage as Los Angeles housing goes up in smoke. I mean, surely be more sensitive. So you remember a while back, they said ADUs are now allowed in California, where you can build an ADU in your backyard, basically have another house. You could rent that house out. You can rent both houses out. You could have an in-law apartment or casita, independent living space attached or located on the same property as single-family home. So it's a big, big code change for California. The units have become a vital source of the housing stock, especially in times of crisis. Let's see, where's the fires begin? Okay, we've already talked about that stuff. Legal changes pave the way for California's ADU. California-based broker, writer, and speaker on the topic, Kendall Young, says units represent the largest segment of residential properties approved within the past 2 years. Young attributes the number of factors, including newer ADU rules and increased demand. Unpermitted ADUs can be approved if they meet health and safety standards. Property owners can build up to 8 detached ADUs on multifamily lots. And by July 1st, 2026, California Coastal Commission will provide guidelines to simplify ADU permitting. I wonder if that's going to be expedited given the new rule that Karen Bass and Newsom have put into place.
And
These
they kind of
reforms
already
build...
made it simpler too.
Yeah,
So
I mean, they
if
made
you-
it way
if you
easy
do
with
one
the
of their
law
plans-
change.
Yeah, if you use one of their already approved plans for a garage or approved plans, they pretty much send it right through and you don't even have to pay the extra fees.
Yeah.
I mean, they make it super simple at this point.
Kendall Young said the wildfires will likely spike demand to the point where all rental housing ADUs are included, will be peak prices. She said she's exhausted and heartstruck. Is my home safe? I know too many clients and friends have lost their home. I think this is going to be a big part of the rebuild. I think you're going to see a ton of homes rebuild with the same footprint and then boop, in the backyard is an ADU now. Andy
Every
Rose
realtor
said,
should be telling them that.
Andy Rose said the crazy part is that the Santa Ana winds happen every year. They know it's an issue. Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll get into reasons some other time. All right. So that's kind of it on the California. We spent actually most of the show talking about the California wildfires. It is a big deal. So shout out to all of our folks in California and listeners over there. Like I said, if you need help, reach out to me at Ray Zorback, RayZorback. Let me get to a couple of other articles that I want to cover today that just talk about the market in general. All right. Home tours rise modestly to start 2025, but that hasn't translated to more sales. So are you guys experiencing this too? We've seen more home tours, more showing requests in the last 2 weeks than we had in some parts of December. So yeah, we definitely have seen an increase in tours. No, we haven't seen an increase above average in the number of homes going under contract, and homes that are at the highest percent, maybe like the top 5 or 10% of the market in our area, are still sitting. It looks like the bottom 1/3 of the market is moving rapidly and the middle of the market is just kind of mushy. So drop in the comments what's happening in your market. This one said more house hunters are starting their home search as the new year kicks off. Redfin's home buyer demand index seasonally adjusted measure of tours posted a small 2% increase. On the selling side, new listings are down 2.5%. It's the biggest decline in over a year, but for the reason noted above, that drop may appear larger than it actually is. What was that note above here? Let me see. Pending home sales fell 3.1% from a year earlier during the 4 weeks ending January 5th, though that decline may be artificially large because we're comparing to a period last year when mortgage rates posted a big drop, bringing a surge in demand. Yeah, we don't have that drop right now. We're actually looking for creative ways. So if you know of any, holla. But we're actually looking for creative ways to try to get financing in 5% for our listings. maybe partnerships with lending institutions or specific lenders that want to do that. So that's what we're looking for on the horizon. And this is a primary reason. Why is it so hard to find starter homes in the U.S.? Is the era of starter home over? First-time home buyers may struggle to find an adequate starter home. The homes that once give Americans a stepping stone into real estate are disappearing. While exact definition of starter home varies, they're typically under 1,400 square feet. I can tell you right now, Arkansas has plenty of those. In 2023, just 9% of the homes built in the U.S. were that size. Well, that may be because... All right, so I don't love this type of article because we still have homes that are $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Do you have to put work into them? Yeah. Yeah, you do. Can you expect a brand new roof, HVAC, the latest in lighting? No. The issue is not that starter homes are disappearing. The issue is that the taste of a first-time home buyer is so high that many of them wouldn't be caught dead in a quote-unquote starter home that they could easily afford, put some elbow grease into, and maybe have an investment in the long term. So they continue to save up. They're also not settled. They're still moving around the country when they're 20. So why should they buy a house? They're not going to be there even a year. So they're not settled. Many of them don't marry. They don't have a family. So there's no reason to settle. They're still moving around the country. And so they wait until they're 30 or 40 to buy their first home. And by that time, they got some cash, they got a lifestyle to maintain, and they're going to be buying a starter home that is closer to the move-up home that people used to buy. So it's not that there's a disappearance of starter homes. It's that the nature of the first-time home buyer has completely changed. And I hear a lot of people complaining on all the social medias, oh, there's no way I can afford a home these days. Maybe not in the area where you currently live, but around the country, or maybe in the outskirts of that area, there is. I guarantee in almost every major city, there's a home that you can buy under $100,000. It's got to be on the outskirts. It's maybe not in the exact zip code you want to live, but the issue is not that the home doesn't exist. It's the flavor of the first-time home buyer has completely changed. They're in a completely different place. So I have an issue with articles that are like, the first-time home buyers are gone. No one can afford it. Well, people used to move to more affordable places so that they could buy what they wanted to buy and live the life that they wanted to live. That was common. And I know this because I live in a very affordable place. It's nice. We can still buy milk and eggs for just a couple bucks. Not a big deal. All right. So I'm not going to sit on that article very long because I've shared my opinion. But I do want to get to the hidden middleman because this is a big issue. I mean, this middleman is just stealing money from people. You want to know who it is? Real estate agents, mortgage brokers, attorneys, all help push a deal through. And appraisers. No. These appraisal management companies, the little known players that have flourished in the aftermath of the 2008 housing crash, the job of the AMC is fairly straightforward. When someone wants to get a mortgage for a house, the lender will order the appraisal for the property to determine how much it's worth. But I'm gonna rephrase some of this, Scap. Then I want to hear your opinion on it. But to cut off any collusion that the lender may have had with the appraiser back in the day of the fraudulent mortgage stuff, now they have to go through a third-party service and have very little to no contact with the lender. And that third-party service is just a slight overcharge, isn't it, Scap? I mean, it shouldn't be a huge fee, should it?
Oh, I'm speechless.
Oh, really?
It should not be. Yeah, well, no, because you're getting my blood to boil here with your intro here.
No,
the AMCs are just pure garbage, period. I mean, I'll say it straight out. And most people don't know what an AMC is. I still meet agents that don't know what an AMC is, but most people don't know how they operate, what they're intended to do. And as you said, they were put in place to keep the collusion between the appraiser and the lender away. However, not only do they, price gouge your buyers or anybody that's trying to, get a mortgage or refinance or something of that nature, they have also created it where they are the ones that influence the appraiser. Hence why you get so many bad appraisals out there, why you get appraisers just magically hitting that contract number almost 90% of the time. So
that's what I like.
It goes further. Well, I know you like that, but it goes further. It goes further than just, gouging. So I guess, the way it's supposed to work is that obviously, like you said, they hire the appraiser. They find the appraiser for the other. And as an appraiser, we're supposed to communicate with that AMC. So once the lender orders that appraisal, they order it, they send it to the AMC. The AMC then goes out to their panel of appraisers. Well, they're supposed to. And find the appraiser that will do the assignment. Typically, you would think you would want to find the most experienced appraiser in the area or somebody who knows the area well.
Yeah, for sure. You wouldn't want to use anybody from an adjacent town that has no idea. Surely they don't do that, Scap.
Oh, absolutely, positively not. I mean, there's guys coming from 2-3 hours away, not even in an adjacent town. They're coming from all over the place. So what happens is these AMCs, in order to make money, so how AMCs make their money, obviously, as appraisers, we charge a specific fee. The AMCs, when they were put in place back when HVCC was started, Home Valuation Code of Conduct, which is now the Dodd-Frank, part of Dodd-Frank, the AMCs, nobody ever said how AMCs were supposed to get paid. One would think that since they are signing contracts with lenders, that the lender would pay them a monetary amount to actually, manage that order all the way through the process. That's not the case. What happens is you have AMCs that now decide what the fee is. Then they will, they go out and find an appraiser, or they bid it out to an appraiser. That's the new thing. So either they find one or they bid it out to, 30, 40 different appraisers on their panel in that area. And whoever is the cheapest and fastest gets the appraisal order. So if your borrower is being charged, $1,000 for an appraisal to do the appraisal for their purchase, that AMC bids it out, and now you have an appraiser that says, well, I'll do it for $450 or $500.
Oh, that's awesome. So you just saved the consumer $500.
No, the AMC will take the rest of that money and put it in their pocket for pretty much doing absolutely nothing.
Wow.
So they take the rest of that money. So I've been part of this advocacy group for years, and we did a study amongst appraisers. I run a large group of appraisers across the country, over 5,000 of them. And we started obtaining a lot of information, a lot of orders that AMCs were sending out to appraisers. And we found that most of these AMCs, some of the bigger ones as well, they're making billions of dollars over the last 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. They're making a ton of money by ripping off your consumer for a fee that it's never stated.
No, Scap. It's only $12 billion over the 5 year
only $12
span.
billion. But if you look at a closing statement, it just says appraisal fee, and everybody thinks that that's going to the appraiser. So I've seen agents going, "Wow, this appraiser charged $700 for an appraisal," or "Hey, you charged my borrower $1,000." No, that's not the case. You see on the closing statement what that fee is, but that's not the truth. The truth of the matter is that the appraisers are making a lot less. So really, the problem that we're having here in this appraisal profession is that you're not getting the most experienced appraisers doing these jobs. You're getting a lot of companies that have adapted over the years, where before the crash, I was making $500-600 an appraisal or maybe $450 or whatever. Now, through these AMCs, they're coming out and setting a fee and basically telling the appraiser in emails and then on their platform, we can only pay you $350 for this appraisal, not knowing that they just charged your borrower $650 for the appraisal.
Wow.
So nobody knows. Now there are some states, like here in Georgia, I have to put in my appraisal report what I was paid for the appraisal. So in my report, somewhere in there, I'll say, oh, I was paid $500 for the appraisal. But guess what? Nobody ever reads the damn report anyway. They look at the numbers. So you don't know. And then you look at the closing statement and see something and go, oh, okay, I guess the appraiser got paid all that money.
I'm going to read mine tomorrow.
And in some states, they'll break it out where it'll say the AMC fee, and then it'll say the appraiser fee. One of the biggest fights that we've had as appraisers is including an invoice in all of our appraisals to the AMCs and to the lenders. And guess what? In every engagement letter for an AMC, they have something specifically written in there that says, do not include an invoice. Wow. I wonder why. So your borrowers, when you think you're getting, the most experienced appraiser in your area or somebody that knows what they're doing, you're probably not. You have these AMCs just taking money and you think, people think, oh, the appraisers are making so much money. We're not. That's why I took my business to the private side and I refused to do any lender jobs, because I could sit at my computer all day long to, like, just say, for instance, for today, if I was signed up with all these AMCs, and guess what I would get? I would get email after email after email saying, hey, would you please bid on this, bid on this, bid on this.
Yeah.
The reason why they want bids is because they want to find the cheapest person so they can maximize their profit and take the rest of that money and put it in their bank account. The next thing that they do, which is kind of funny to me, is that if I come out to a house for a private appraisal, I get paid right on the spot. Hey, pay me my money, or like in Matt LaMarche's case, he'll wait a couple days to pay me.
Usually.
But I get paid for my service before once I leave the inspection, I get paid. These AMCs will keep the money in like an escrow account and basically make the appraisers wait 30 to 60 days, if not more, to actually be paid for their services after they deliver the report. And for the most part, a lot of it is to rob Peter to pay Paul, because they keep taking a lot of this money to do other things with, and then they don't have money. And that's why
crazy.
Some AMCs have gone out of business. So the AMC business is a big racket, y'all. And I wish that more agents and everybody out there would pay more attention to this and actually look through their appraisals and maybe help advocate for it. Because, again, what you're seeing is so many appraisers left the profession when AMCs came into the existence and went on to do different things. The ones that are left are the ones that are basically being told, you have to accept this fee or you're not going to get this job. So you're seeing a lot more of these appraisers, just as I said earlier, where that influence or that pressure for lenders versus appraisers, like that middleman's supposed to keep that away. The AMCs are now the ones basically saying, look, if you don't accept this job at this much, then you're not getting any more work. And we'll take you off our panel or whatever.
If only.
What can we as agents do about it?
Well, I was just going to say, Terry, because I got to go to the next story, but if only agents had like a large advocacy group that was known for being in contact with legislators that could, advocate for consumers and the process of maybe. I think it was originally called NAR, but I don't know. We'll have to see what they are.
Let me just lay my plane here, Ray, just on this, and anybody can reach out to me for more information. But while you all have NAR, the real estate appraisers don't really have a big trade organization, and any organization we did have, like AI or the Appraisal Foundation, they just completely failed us as appraisers. Whereas the AMCs, they have what's called REVA, REVVA, the Real Estate Advocacy Valuation Association, that advocates for these AMCs on Capitol Hill and everything like that to keep this the way it is. So You want to talk about junk fees and talk about your borrowers not being able to have that extra $500 to put something or $600 or whatever. That's where it's going, people. And it can make a huge difference if we had a little more, like, shine more of a light on it.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I mean, I think a lot of agents could bring this up to their boards and, potentially get some things actually changed on it, but we shall see. It looks like I'm kind of hopping over on YouTube, and maybe, all right, now it's back to normal. Frank says the speaker's not working. It's mono plug issue. Well, sometimes that happens on Clubhouse for whatever reason. It'll just start going to one ear. So you should be 2 ears now, Frank. I should be in both of your ears, unless it's your thing. I have 2 more things I want to cover real fast because I got a hard out. I've got to go meet some locksmith at a property to change locks and stuff. Somebody sent me a message privately and said, are you for speculation, which are basically investors entering properties that have been hit with natural disasters. So let me cover this real quick. I am for it and I'm against it. I think the positives are it could increase the property values of the people that are maintaining their properties. Whenever you have more buyers for an area, then the people that hold property in that area, their values are going to increase. And if you have people that are in trouble that maybe can't rebuild how they want, this is good news for them because they could sell that property for more and keep some insurance money, perhaps. And that could also lead to additional wealth for those people that can rebuild and keep their properties if speculation is somewhat allowed, or it's easy to rebuild. The second thing that could happen is it'll create stimulus for development and redevelopment. So I know a lot of people are saying rebuild it like it was, but if you let the free market work, it could be rebuilt a lot better. Some of the things that we were talking about is using flame retardant materials in your property or fire resistant materials in your property. Is it really worth it at the current prices over there to rebuild it with those materials and do that? Maybe, maybe not. But if speculators enter the market and prices increase, then those homeowners could do that and get the money out of it. Economic growth. The raising of property values does increase local tax revenue. The increased market activity will stimulate industries to come into the area, perhaps, to rebuild faster. So there's some positives with speculators entering the market. There's also some negatives with speculators entering the market. The negatives, obviously, on the other side of that, as you increase properties for current homeowners and property owners, you decrease the affordability for people that are looking to buy in that area. So you could drive out some people that are currently able to afford to live in that area, have made their life in that area, and now they can't live in that area anymore, commonly referred to as gentrification. Market volatility. If you start to see prices go up and down wildly, people just sit still. They don't do anything because they don't know what to do. And speculative markets can become overheated pretty quickly. It could lead to a bubble that pops at the end. So that's some of the downside. Displacement of vulnerable communities. You could have speculators that enter the market that are solely focused on profit and not necessarily the lifestyle or the livability of the area. But in my brain, I would say, well, if they were focused on livability, they would make more money. So it doesn't seem like a speculator would do that, but I guess there are some. And I guess you could say the financial strain that it could place on the communities of people that can no longer afford to live there. I guess via wealth concentration, if you have one speculator buying a whole bunch of properties, then that's the downside. So there are positives and negatives of speculators entering a market. I am more pro free market than I am government regulation. But in situations like this that are fairly extreme, I'm for some government intervention that prevents greed. Greed is not a part of capitalism. But I am not for so much government intervention that it prevents development or investment. People should be able to invest and do well with their investments. All right. So that's my opinion on speculators. Somebody asked me about it. Mortgage demand. Mortgage demand is mixed. Interest rates hit the highest level since May. The average contract interest rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage with conforming loan balance of $766,550 or less increased to 7.09%. We're back over 7, guys. That's up from 6.99%. Applications to refinance a home were 22% higher than the same week a year ago. What? Applications to purchase were 2% lower than the same week a year ago. That seems backwards. So, applications to refinance a home were 22% higher than the same week a year ago. This does not sound right. While it might not make sense that there would be more refinance demand and higher interest rate, volumes are so low right now that percentages are skewed much larger. So I guess last year's volume was so low, but last year had a lower rate, so you would think it'd be higher. I don't know. Applications to purchase were 2% lower than the same week a year ago. Buyers are seeing more inventory on the market. As we talked about earlier, there is more buyer activity, but overall, the actual purchase activity and applications to purchase are still low. All right, guys, that's all I got for this week. I have a fairly hard out, so just go follow me on Razorback. That's RAYZORBACK. Send me a message if you're in Cali. Let me know how you're doing. Touch base, and hopefully I will see you guys next week at Elite Retreat in Orlando, Florida. I'll be there. Reach out to me if you're going. I'd love to meet you. For that reason, obviously, we won't have a show next week. We'll be back in 2 weeks. But we will have a book club. If you're in the book club, I'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock. If you want more information about the book club, you'll have to reach out to me at Razorback, RAYZORBACK. We will have a book club next week as well, because I'll be back in time for that. See you later, Elizabeth. Thank you.
My golf club still haven't arrived.
Happy birthday, Scap. Hopefully you'll get your clubs. Bye, everybody.